This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Bring it on the first time guest here. You know him from Twitter Spaces. You know him from Twitter in general. You know him from many other things. He's a frequent changer of his name. Right now, he's training Camp Chops. Welcome. Let's welcome Chops into the show. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? How we doing?
Good, good. So you just got back you got back last week from the week in Greenbrier. The Browns just got back, did their first practice in the public in Berea. What have you seen so far with this team? Like, what looks differently when it comes to like some of the specific stuff on offense? Because I think a lot of people are kind of anxious about that.
Yeah, so I was in West Virginia for the week, and then I just got back from their first practice in Berea. I think to me it's early. I think that's a big thing. Like Kevin Stefanski really took the week in West Virginia to ramp up. Like that wasn't just lip service. They really did use it to ramp up, get installs in. But I think the thing you can see just from the bat is they're going to be in shotgun a lot more, and Elijah Moore is going to be used everywhere. I think those are the two consistent things that have stood out to me. And it's not going to be just the Kevin Stefanski offense that we saw in years past where it's drop back, a lot of play action. And that's not to say that he's not going to do that because, one, Deshaun's always been very good at play action out of the under center, and that's been the staple of Kevin Stefanski's offense. And I think Amari Cooper did really well with that last year. But I think when you look at this, they're really gonna try and spread teams out, and I think that's why you see them shuffling through so many wide receivers in camp right now. Like when you watch camp, everybody's getting in, minus like the last two dudes, Watkins, who is the new guy they just signed because Goodwin came in. And then like Mike Harley Jr., other than those two, everybody else is getting in like a crack with the first team offense. Dalen Baldwin, Darden before he got hurt, Cedric Tillman. They're getting shots. Like you can tell that they're like, okay, we're going to need wide receivers, and we want to have these guys have reps with Deshaun Watson in the first team offense. So I think that's what's really stood out to me so far.
And you mentioned Elijah Moore. One of the things I've been curious about, because people like kind of like they want to pigeonhole him in one spot, whether he's going to play slot or the outside, but I kind of see him as being used kind of in tandem. Do you see him used like a lot on the same side as field as like specific players like Amari in these packages, or do they have him kind of opposite, kind of on his own side?
So it depends, because Amari was out for a portion of West Virginia, and when that happened, he was playing on the outside opposite DPJ consistently. Amari only really started playing team again today, and he wasn't even doing every team. Like I said, they're rotating guys so much. So it's been hard to tell how they're going to do that with Amari and Elijah at the same time. But he's been, I think mostly you're going to see him opposite Amari, but then you're going to see him in the slot a lot. But then the backfield stuff is real. They ran about 3 to 4 plays today where he was in the backfield. One of them was a straight option from Deshaun to Elijah Moore out of the backfield.
Not like a pitch option?
Yeah, like running the option. Like they literally ran the option to Elijah Moore today. That was one of their plays. Like that's what they're working on. And that's nothing new. Elijah Moore's been lining up everywhere. So but I think they're gonna run, so it's 11 personnel then, right? It's gonna be Amari, Elijah Moore, DPJ, and Njoku with Chubb. I think that's it. I think that's the base set that you're gonna see a lot.
That's interesting. So does it, and I'm not saying it worries me, I'm just wondering like where your gauge on, does it worry you that like Elijah, he seems like he's going to be a big part of this offense, given that, this is going to also be, if he has the year that people expect, this will probably be a career year for him, right? Like it's the expectations are kind of at that for him. So is it worry you that somebody who kind of has to kind of step into that position is going there? And what have you seen so far of Elijah that would make you more confident if you are kind of leaning in that direction?
Well, and I know you've done this too, probably. I watched the Elijah Moore tape from last year, and I know that it was 95% not Elijah Moore's fault that he didn't have at least a good season. Like if you watch his film back, he should have had so many more opportunities. But I don't want to pick on anybody, but the quarterback that the Browns are playing on Thursday night, starting for the Jets, just isn't very good. He's just not. And the quarterback that's going to play for the Cleveland Browns on September 10th is very good. And I think that him and Elijah already have a chemistry. So it's just such a unique situation that the Jets found themselves in where they had to move on for Elijah Moore because Aaron Rodgers came in and he wanted to bring his boys. Like if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, say they get any other quarterback, he's not bringing Alan Lazard and he's not bringing Randall Cobb and Elijah Moore still a New York Jet for whatever quarterback they say they got Derek Carr. Elijah Moore's still in New York, I think, and they work it out, and I think he has a good season with Derek Carr. But the Browns got very lucky that Aaron Rodgers is like a dude who brings his guys with him, so they had to get rid of him. And I think you're going to see Elijah Moore really take the next step and have, like you said, a career year. But I think it's just he hasn't been able to. He just hasn't had the quarterback play to be good. I think it really has,
Yeah, receiver's one of those weird positions to where like so many things matter in order for a wide receiver to like get their numbers, right? Like they need to have a certain connection with the quarterback because sometimes a quarterback can be all right, a wide receiver can be good, and it just doesn't work out. Sometimes you can get, a wide receiver, maybe he's on a team, the offensive line isn't good, the quarterback's always bailing away from him, so he never gets the numbers that he has. And it's always interesting to see like just what these small changes in Elijah Moore's case, this is a big change, right? You're talking about, one of the underrated things I think is going to be a difference for Elijah is that he's going from an offense that averaged 2.4 pocket time seconds in the pocket versus now, and Browns have had 2.9 seconds average in the pocket the last couple of years. So that's going to only help him have more time to kind of run those double moves that he's so good at.
And something that I noticed today, it seems to me, and I haven't talked to anybody about this, but I think Deshaun is making a conscious effort right now to stay in the pocket and run through his progressions because we know he can escape and he can use that escapability. I think right now he's really trying not to. He's trying to say, okay, and it's camp. This is your stuff. This is your time to work on that kind of stuff. And that's why everybody's freaking out about Myles Garrett beating Jed Wills today. But like, how many situations are we ever going to be in where Myles Garrett doesn't get double teamed, doesn't get chipped, doesn't have a back? Like they're just going one-on-one. Myles could blow up every single play in this situation if he wanted to, but so it's like, I think that's something that people have to worry about or think about. Because everybody wants to say, oh, who won the day, offense or defense? That's like the most boring training camp analysis. But there's so much nuance to it because you have to think about, okay, what are they working on? Like today, they ran 2-minute drills for the first team offense, second team offense, third team offense. I saw somebody report, oh, the first team offense stalled and they had to take a field goal. No, the whole point of the drill was they wanted to set up a field goal. They wanted to test Cade York in the situation because you know why? They're playing a game in 2 days. They need their special teams to be ready for all situations. If they weren't trying to score a touchdown. So I think a little bit of that nuance gets lost from people watching camp and then like the tweets,
And like so much of camp is context, right? Like if the defense looks bad one day, a lot of that could be like, hey, they were in a bad look on purpose just to see how they could react if they get caught off guard in a bad look versus a play that's a 2-beater. Like it's so much of that like gets lost because people just want to react to what they see and not kind of take in everything else that it kind of becomes a madhouse, which is tough because the games.
No, my bad, not to cut you off, but like watching actual football games, we know very little about what's going on. Even less in camp because like you said, they could be intentionally setting up their sides to be in a bad position to see how they react. It's practice. This is the time to go through all that. But again, nobody reacts like that. Everybody's like, oh my, who won the day? Who won the day? And there's situations I think one-on-ones in camp is when you can really see who's like DB wide receiver battles and then offensive line and defensive line. That's where you can really see, okay, this guy got that guy and that. But other than that, when they're running team and they're running 7-on-7, we don't know what they're being told what to do,
Yeah, and You mentioned the Miles Jet thing, and it's always like a fascinating thing with Browns fans, because sometimes it's like we don't understand when we have like really, really good players. And one of the things with the dude like Miles, you could even say with Deshaun, is those guys are so good that they're going to go to practice sometimes and just be working on stuff that they're bad at. So they might not look great in camp one day because they're like, you know what? I'm going to work on this because I could win every rep if I want. Deshaun Watson could go out there and probably tear up every 7-on-7 if he wanted to. He's done it in the league. Like, he's thrown almost 5,000 yards before. He could tear up a 7-on-7 in camp if he really wanted to, and get everybody excited. But he might want to work on something else that he knows that was a little bit of a weak point during the season last year. And it's so hard for people to get the grasp of that, because like, if Miles does dominate Jed, now we're freaking out about Jed. If Miles doesn't dominate Jed, now we're freaking out about Miles, right?
Exactly.
Like, there's always two sides of the coin. Nobody could ever just be like, hey, that's good that we saw this thing, you know?
And I think the Jed thing is, in particular, is like, look, we know Jed Wills, not a perfect player, has many situations where he gets beat. He's not probably a top 10 left tackle. That's a premium position. That's fine, but he's fine. He is a fine player, and I think when you see stuff like this, you're like, again, like you said, we forget. Yeah, he's going one-on-one against Myles Garrett, who literally is doing stuff on the field. He bends like no one I've ever like. It's unbelievable. And here's the thing:
it's unimaginable to stop him in a one-on-one.
And Deshaun's not bailing on purpose, because again, I think they're working on, hey, let's stay in the pocket. Let's work on this. Like you said, they're working out kinks. That's the whole point of this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. What is he going to do, like, so he can kind of hit his guys if he does feel pressure coming from behind him, right? Like, can he step up?
How good he is on the run, and like, that's not something you can really simulate in practice. Like, you can a little bit, but it's like you're not going to get a lot of benefit out of doing that. This is the only situation where you can still stay in the pocket, feel the pressure, and you're not going to get hit. So why not go through your progressions and try and and work through that?
And depending on how your coach is, or how, like, his personal training method is, he might see it as like, well, that's kind of like a cheat code, right? If I bail out in camp, there's really nobody that can hit me. Of course I can make a completion that way, right? Like, I don't need to do that. What would be harder is to kind of just stay in there, try to make a play, maybe get a ball padded or two, but work through that so I can be better in that in the game situation. We forget so much that practice is not a performance. It is practice. Like, it is there to improve people, right? Like, it's okay.
And I get it. We're all just so hungry for football that we just, like, it's at the point where I follow, it's a great account. It is, I want to make sure I say it right because they're great. 32 beat writers. It is literally just an account that is dedicated to sharing training camp clips of every team. And I love it because I'm like, oh, what's going on today? Like, is someone get hurt? Who's playing? Like that. We're so in love with football that these things exist. Where like all of this is practice, and we're over exaggerating to everything, and it's just, I mean, it's good because look, I love the game, you love the game, everybody loves it, so it's like, it's awesome to be able to talk about it in this way. But I think sometimes everybody needs to take a step back and be like, okay, they're working on things. Let's let them do that.
It almost feels like football fandom has evolved so much in like since social media. Like, fans are generally, they know a little bit more than they used to, especially when it comes to some of the complexity, but it's like, we don't know everything, but we're at the point to where we know enough that we talk like we know everything. And I think it's like the teenage part of NFL fandom or something like that.
Also, lost in the Myles and Jed Wills thing, how good do you think Myles Garrett would be if he knew that it's a pass play every time when he lined up? But that's the thing. He knows.
Well, not just that. Not just that. It's like, he knows it's going to be a pass play. He knows that they're not sliding. They're not they're not chipping him. He doesn't have to anticipate anything coming off the edge. Like, he's just literally like, go through his chest, and he's Myles Garrett. Nobody survives. Like, what was it, Jason Peters that gave up 5 sacks because the Bears were like, we're just going to leave him one-on-one the whole game.
And the thing is, Myles is being nice. He's not even going through his chest. He's dipping down every single time and still getting through. He's doing his dip move and still getting through. But again, if there's no threat of one of the best running backs in the NFL, then Myles Garrett's probably going to eat, But when you look at a Browns offense that has All right, is Nick Chubb going to run? Where's Elijah Moore at? What do we have to worry? When you actually have to worry about that, you're going to see something different.
And it's like red zone drills. I saw people kind of make a big deal out of red zone drills. And like, well, the Browns' two most powerful like options are kind of taken away in the 7-on-7 red zone drill, right? Deshaun can't just pull it out and run in the 7-on-7, and
Nick Chubb
he can't use it, Nick Chubb in any effective way, like even as a decoy.
And here's how I look at it. That's awesome that the Browns have defensive backs that can do that in a 7-on-7. Martin Emerson looks amazing in camp. Like, I think he's going to end up being the Browns' best defensive back. Wow. His body type, like literally, the baby Ramsey stuff isn't a joke. He looks like Jalen Ramsey out there with his body type. Him and Denzel Ward, what better players would you want to go against in 7-on? You're barely going to see better than that in the league when you're playing Sundays.
Yeah, and it's there's a lot of talent on this team, and I think I heard Juan Thornhill say this in an interview the other day. What you want to see is this team go back and forth, right? Like, you don't want to see Deshaun dominate every day of camp. You don't want to see the defense dominate every day of camp, and because it tells you that. Go ahead.
It's been balanced every day. It's been the situation where, all right, like, it's funny. I walked away today and I saw, and people were tweeting me, oh, the offense dominated. But then every clip that comes out is 11-on-11 of Deshaun hitting like DPJ made 2 unreal catches today in 11-on-11 that nobody dominated. They go back and forth. That's what happens. Cam Mitchell made a great interception off Deshaun Watson. That's awesome. He's a fucking rookie. If he is getting first team reps and doing that there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, you just want to see plays getting made in camp, right? Like, you don't want to see plays getting made because people are just being bad at football, right? Like, an interception, errant in the field, because you couldn't tell who was where on the cover 2 or something like that. Like, you want to be able to say, hey, this dude just made a play on the ball. And I noticed this during the football season. I noticed this even more during camp, but it's like, nothing can ever be that somebody just made a good play. Like, it always has to be that somebody stinks or somebody's bad. And it's like, no, these are great athletes going at it. They're going to go back and forth. Some guys are going to make plays. Some guys are not. It is what it is. And that's what encourages me more so than any other Browns camp is that the amount of plays that are getting made, right? Like, it used to be, I would have to search for the one play that got made in camp, and it wasn't even relevant, right? It's not Baker to Odell. It's Case Keenum hit what was his name, Derek Willis or somebody like that. You know what I mean? It would be oh, that's cool, but that's not helpful. You know what I mean?
They're so deep at it right now. Like you said, it's such a different time that Cedric Tillman made the play of the day today. Him and Kellen Mond made the play of the day, but it wasn't the only play. It was just look, Cedric Tillman made a great catch, and that's what it is. Sometimes you would have to go days before you saw that out of the first team offense. No, that stuff's happened on a consistent basis. I think everybody just wants to. Here's what happened. Here's what Browns fans saw. Browns fans saw that video of Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson going at it in early in camp and Jets camp, and they're like, why don't we see this? Where is this for Browns camp? The Browns have had a drastically different camp. They were in West Virginia. They ramped it up. They weren't even I think I saw them run one-on-one wide receiver drills once, and they didn't run it today. They ran it in West Virginia. They're just Kevin Stefanski knows this is going to be a long training camp, knows this is a long preseason. He's getting his guys to that point. They had one. The reason they went sort of long today is because they have one practice. They don't practice tomorrow. Then they play Thursday. They're off Friday, and then they're back Sunday, and then Saturday I think they're practicing, but it's like they're going to the Joe Thomas and Tryman, so it's like a team building activity. So it's like there's kind of a method to the madness that we don't know, that everybody just tries to assume and make assumptions about.
And let's kind of talk about Deshaun real quick, because what I've seen just overall, just in kind of his personal demeanor, from what I can gather from everything that I've seen, is he seems relaxed. He seems very relaxed, and last year it felt like he was getting acclimated to the team. This year, it's that he walks around. I don't know how to describe it, but it's this team is his. You don't really have to act. It's kind of inherent or in his energy that he carries, and he just seems so the impression from everybody else is that this is obviously the best quarterback they've ever had. I mean, like going back from expansion. The question is just how high the ceiling can go with him. And one of the things with Deshaun that I'm interested is when he left or was last played his full season, since that time, we had Justin Herbert enter the scene. We had Jalen Hurts enter the scene. You can say Trevor Lawrence. Joe Burrow truly entered the scene after that 2020 season where he got hurt. So many guys have entered the scene since Deshaun has left the scene. So it's kind of hard for people to be like, hey, where does Deshaun fit? Because when he was in that conversation with Mahomes, it was in a different landscape. How do you feel like this version of him steps into that landscape? And also, he's 27, 26 years old, entering his prime. We're seeing Miles kind of in that same range enter his prime. So, like, how are you just feeling in general about him?
Yeah, for the first thing on his demeanor, he's been locked in since March 1st. March 1st, it really ramped up with the workouts, and he was like, okay, I'm going to lock in with Quincy Avery.
Quincy Avery, not me.
Yeah, not to be confused. And he's like, and look, I think he talked about it when he joined my space during the draft, is like 6 games don't define me. So he's like, okay, I'm going to lock in. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to make sure I'm in the best shape of my life. And when he came back for minicamp and when he came back for training camp, you could just tell that his confidence was through the roof. And he not only had the confidence, but you could tell that he didn't have the weight. And look, I don't want to get into whatever, but he didn't have the weight of everything going on. And he didn't have, he's able to be himself again. And you can just hear it in the way he talks. He just seems way more comfortable. He seems way more at ease. His teammates feel that too. That's the thing. It's not just resonating from him. You can tell it when his teammates are speaking that they're like, okay, this guy's fully locked in. He fully has his confidence back, and we're fully confident in him. Say what you want to say. Jacoby is a very good leader. He may not be the best quarterback. He's a pretty good quarterback, I would say, like an average quarterback. He's a very good leader. No matter what happens, say Deshaun went 6-0, there was always going to be the Jacoby factor in that, because he just did such a good job of being in that locker room and kind of helping a bad situation last year kind of bring the whole team together. So now, and this isn't anything about Jacoby, but he's gone. And now Deshaun coming back, like, it's fully his team. He's fully locked in. And then just where he fits in, you're right. The QB landscape has changed. What I think is you can still tell that the respect is there, because you see most rankings. Like I saw the Athletic one that Sando does where he hits coaches and evaluators. And Deshaun was in tier 2 with Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, all them, and he was number 11 overall. That seems about right. Obviously, I would probably we know that he can be higher than that, but that's just the respect level right there, because he hasn't played a full season since 2020, and the 6 games weren't perfect. So, like, that's just people knowing, like, all right, this is a bad dude, and he's very good at football, and he's a bad man on the field. Like, he can really get to it. So I think you see the respect there, and I think he had to get his confidence back, and I think he has. I think him and Kevin really stripped things down over the offseason, and we're like, okay, we need to figure it out. And I think Kevin, for the first time, he had a quarterback where he was like really, really, really collaborative with, to the point of they're sharing, and I know this for a fact, plays from Deshaun's college years and schemes where it's like, hey, I saw this. I like this. What do you think? How can we bring this in? What if Jerome Ford's doing this? Like they've gotten to that level, which is where you want to see every quarterback and head coach or play caller. I don't think Kevin ever had that before. He certainly didn't have it with Jacoby, because there just wasn't enough time to get to that level. Did he have it with Baker? I don't know. Probably not. Just the way that offense was ran, I would doubt it. But so them being at that level gives me a lot of confidence, because I think they're and when you hear them talk, they're fully in lockstep about what they want to do. This isn't Deshaun Watson running Kevin Stefanski's offense and being misplaced. This is Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson coming up with what's best for Deshaun Watson in this offense to run with Kevin Stefanski calling plays,
Yeah,
which I think is a big difference.
Well, and it's like with any franchise quarterback, that's like when you get to the upper tier guys, it's usually they're running that person's offense, the quarterback's offense, right?
Yep.
You know, Peyton Manning goes from Indy to Denver, he running the same place, right?
Exactly.
You're running Peyton Manning's plays.
Like,
you know, Tom Brady.
They weren't like, we're running our shit. No, you're running what Peyton Manning wants to run.
Yeah. You're not making Tom kind of do stuff that he doesn't want to do, right? You kind of work with and collaborate with those guys. And I was interested to see how that process was going, because that's a different skill set than being a good offensive coordinator with regular quarterbacks, right? Like the one thing with Kyle Shanahan out in San Francisco, as good as he is with kind of average level quarterbacks, there is a question of like, hey, what happens if he gets somebody elite? Like, is he willing to kind of adjust that system and adjust his own philosophy to kind of mold itself to what it needs to be molded to?
And I think Kevin had a moment where he had to realize that last year. I think they tried to do two things last year. And one, they tried to implement too much what Deshaun wanted to do on the fly in the Houston and Cincinnati game. And you could tell that they weren't ready. They tried to do RPOs. They tried to do some shit that he was used to, and they just weren't ready for it. It was too much of an ask for the rest of the offense to do this on the fly. And then they switched to a lot of what Kevin had been running, and Watson just wasn't probably ready for it. And then it just wasn't what he had been super successful with. Obviously, you saw some stuff, the Washington game, you saw some throws that worked because just he's so talented, but it just wasn't the offense that I think that they were both comfortable with each other, which you are now going to see. And obviously, look, there might be some growing pains where they have to work some stuff out. You're working in a new wide receiver in Elijah Moore. Nick Chubb has to adjust to now not getting as many carries out of under center. He's gonna have more carries out the backfield. Jerome Ford's gonna have to adjust to a new role. So you're gonna see that. Jordan Akins, obviously Watson's played with him, but he's never been in this system. So he's coming in. I think Njoku, I didn't mention him earlier, but I think Njoku and Watson, I think, are the two that really got good chemistry last year. And I think it's carried over. I think that's the one case where you saw success last year, and it's carrying over. And like in camp, they've been unstoppable together.
All right, I'll ask these last. Well, this is going to be a two-parter, and then we'll head out. If you had to name one veteran player we're relying on that you would be worried about, and one veteran player we're relying on that you are excited about what they're going to be able to do given the new changes on either side of the ball.
So I'll start where I'm excited. I'm going to go to David Njoku because I don't want to say I could say Deshaun, I could say Nick Chubb, whatever. Yeah. I'm going to go with David Njoku because I think he's finally in a place where, one, he has a quarterback who can get him the ball. Two, he has a quarterback that wants to get, like, knows, like, the value of him in the red zone, which I don't think we've all wanted him. We've always said, hey, in the red zone, he should be a monster. We just never really seen it. I think they're really going to unlock that now. So I think David Njoku is someone who's going to excite me. Vet, I'm worried. I don't want to just say Jed because I feel like that's just like a cop out because everybody would just say Jed.
What about Jack?
He looks good.
He looks good.
Bro,
that's good to hear.
They ran like a toss thing to Ford today with the first team offense. Jack tossed somebody. The thing with him is just health. Like if he's out there, I have full confidence in Jack Conklin, and he tossed like JOK or somebody today, which probably isn't great, but like I have full confidence in Jack. You know what? Give me AWalk, and only because they need him to be healthy, and he hasn't been healthy before. They need him to be healthy. And I think if he's healthy, I think I feel very good about the linebacker group as a whole. If he's not able to be out there, I think it could get kind of shaky. But if he's out there, I have a lot of – maybe I'm bending the question a little bit just because I'm worried about his health. But I think he's a guy that's way more important that we're not talking about on the Browns defense. Like we talk about Miles, we talk about Schwartz on running the defense. We talk about Juan Thornhill coming in. We talk about Denzel. I think AWOC is kind of one of the key guys to make sure everybody's kind of doing like JOK when AWOC is out there. I feel good about JOK, if that makes sense. When AWOC's not out there, I don't feel as good, you know?
Because JOK, and the way I've seen it is like when JOK wants to do kind of some of the stuff that makes him JOK and go with his instincts, it really helps to have somebody who you know is going to be where they're supposed to be. Exactly. And that's what AWOC is.
And if AWOC's not out there, I don't know that we have the person who's going to do that. I think having Anthony Walker healthy, having Taki healthy, like I think the Browns feel really good about their linebacker core if they're healthy. That's the thing. That's why I don't think you saw them address it, because I think, look, we saw some good stuff from Taki last year. I think we really did. I know the linebackers were a mess. I blame a little bit of that on the defensive tackle situation, which Dalvin Tomlinson, by the way, looks phenomenal. He's not getting talked about at all. He literally broke up a screen today to Nick Chubb, which you don't see happen a lot, and he swatted it down. Like he looks really good out there. But yeah, I'm gonna go AWOC because I think he is the key to the linebackers. If I think JOK is gonna do what JOK I think he can do, Anthony Walker's almost as important to that as JOK. Because like you said, he's going to make it so JOK can do what JOK does best.
Yeah, and then when we had him and Jacob Phillips out, it was both kind of just with the vibes, and then the defensive line, the interior just started going with the vibes, and then nobody knew where to be.
Jacob Phillips is playing behind Jordan. I can never fucking remember his name.
Jordan K?
Jordan K is playing second. Jordan K is making this team. Like no one should do a 53 without Jordan K on him. One, Bubba loves him. He is he's a
demon. If you look up his PFF stuff from his special team snaps last year on defense, he was a demon last year.
Yeah,
on special teams.
Bubba loves him. I think Schwartz loves him. Like, he's making the team for sure. Jacob Phillips, I'm not as sure about that.
Yeah. Then I think we learned some real lessons about how because a lot of this stuff too is about pairing up players with the right, like I call them pick and roll partners, because like a lot of football, it just gets down to who's next to you in the 2-man game you can run. You see what Pittsburgh does, like they'll literally run like a pick and roll with like Cam Hayward and Alex Highsmith to kind of get them open. You'll see these 2-man games kind of develop, and it's like sometimes you just need to put the right 2 people next to each other.
And I think that's why Andrew Berry was so excited about the Deshaun Smith trade. Because him and Dalvin have had success before.
Doing those kind of stunts, twists, and everything else, right?
Exactly. And look, Zadarius Smith they just need to keep that man healthy. He looks phenomenal out there. He looks like I don't know what he did between minicamp and training camp, but he is in phenomenal shape. Like, you can already tell the Jim Schwartz difference on the defense just by the way that everybody is kind of acting. There's no you can tell that like real accountability has happened on that side of the ball, just the way that guys kind of came back.
It's going to be interesting to see. What about Obo? Have you seen that much from him?
Yes, he's fast as fuck. Whatever they like, I think putting him as that third guy is the perfect fit for him right now. Like, he's still so young, and I think he's still developing. But just having him as a pure pass rusher that you bring in just to do that, I think is going to be phenomenal. I mean, he beats everybody off the edge when he goes on the one-on-ones. Like, it's like they can't stay in front of him, you know? It's
kind of like having an energy guy in basketball. Like, come in real quick, you know?
He's like a 6-man to come in and drop like 10 real quick. That's exactly what he's kind of going to do. And I think, man, I wish I could. Someone made a big play today on the defensive line. I couldn't. It was someone kind of unexpected. I'm going to try and look it up and see who it was. But I think the defensive line, I think they need to add one more guy. Obviously, they're looking. They, at the time of us recording this, had worked out Shelby Harris. There's no deal yet, but I think defensive tackle, they're going to add one more guy of that, obviously with Perrion gone. And then I think defense, man, Juan Thornhill, McLeod, and Delpit, a lot of versatility there. Just athletic-wise, it's so much different watching this group than it did last year with John Johnson. It's just like a different level. And obviously health is going to be the biggest thing, and we're going to have to watch it. But I think there's real reasons to be optimistic about the Browns defense.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for coming on, Chops.
Yep.
Everybody else, y'all have a great day. Have a good night.